and this one is focused in on learning skills on how to memorize things. It's not necessarily something that focuses on an over-encompassing how to improve your memory, but certainly that's a part of it. My background is in brain and cognitive science and adult learning. My favorite thing to do is to teach people, but also to figure out how people think and learn, and then teach them ways that they can improve their minds, but also their overall well-being. And the first class, so I'm just going to do a quick review from the first class. We talked about types of memory. So I think it's a good important to, or it's good important. So I mentioned it's 8 o'clock in the morning and my mouth and my brain are still kind of getting into coordinates, and I've had a little bit of trouble this morning, so been dealing with that, and I won't go into it, but we've been talking about different types of memory, and it's important to know what we're talking about, I think, if we want to improve it, to raise our awareness. Something I didn't mention before, but when we discuss these things, or you think about how you think, that has a term. It's called metacognition, and what that is you're thinking about your own thinking. And when you do that, you automatically start to increase your learning ability, your capabilities for memory. You're already on the path of improving your brain function by thinking about the way that your brain works. So these are very simplified versions. If you didn't attend the first class, I think you can go right on Facebook and go and look through my very simplified and brief explanation of memory and kind of what we talk about when we talk about memory. Then we went into the strategies, and so there's something called the major system. It's a PEG system, which is a type of mnemonic. So there's a course that I have. Some people said that they took a picture of the link. You have to use the link that, it's not this up here, it's a specific link that I have. And I can show it to you at the end, so that if you want to take a picture of it, but if you just want the link too, you can email me. And then here is a lot of information. So there's a lot of mnemonics in here. And the reason I'm kind of showing you this today is that as you're working on this major PEG system, step 2 is associating it, or step 3 is connecting it with a larger, connecting the system with another more easily used system to help maximize that strategy. So we talked about what to do with the PEG system, and there's a video on YouTube. You can probably look at many videos on YouTube about the major PEG system. And it doesn't mean major like most important. I think it's someone's name, someone's last name. It's not like, oh, it's the best or it's the biggest. It just means it's just named after somebody. I think. I could be remembering that wrong. And the reason that that's pretty normal to remember things wrong like that is because our episodic and non-declarative our declarative, episodic, and semantic memory is actually easily changeable. So this is the coding system. And so what you do is you encode, if you're learning a string of numbers, which this is what it's meant for. So you encode it into letters, then you change it into words, then you add pictures, you sort of visually associate it, then you add another system, and then when you need to recall it, you remember those pictures and either a story, or you use method of loci. So we went over that on Sunday, 2 days ago, and then you start to unpack it and you decode it. So a lot of people will be like, woof, that's a lot. But if we broke down the system of reading and writing, that's that system. And everybody, I'm assuming in this room, knows how to do that. So maybe some people aren't quite sure how to read very well or whatnot, but it really is the same system. You know how to do it. the thing with this is that you maybe like, all right, this isn't very efficient. I don't know what I need to use it for. I don't have a million strings of numbers. And then if there's a few of you that are like, yes, I finally found the answer to my prayers, my questions. I found the way to remember 7,000 digits of numbers. Yay! But if anything, what it does is it exercises. It's like running for your mind. And so running intrinsically, I mean, it has a purpose. If you need to get away from something quickly, then you run. Otherwise, we run just to keep our body conditioned. So the encoding and the doing all of this and practicing this system actually exercises your brain like running does. And I think you can make it fun. So so I asked people, my thing is moving a little bit slow, to practice. So I gave a couple exercises. So this class, today's class, is more about you guys, the audience. And for those of you that did this, this is that method of loci, or they call it the memory palace. The original, I believe, term is method of loci because it was created, before it was created by people who didn't live in big palaces. But then as we all became more shelter dwellers, I don't know if that's a thing, where we lived in homes, then method of loci, it probably became or memory palace became a more efficient title for it, but they're both the same thing. So this is where you place your information around a room that you're familiar with. I do want to take a second to talk about visual memory and some theories about that. So there's something called the visual spatial sketchpad. So visuospatial is our visual system, and our body system, our spatial awareness. And in our brain, there's this abstract idea that we have this sketch pad. And so as we move through space, we are laying down that foundation and almost drawing it out. And there's and I don't explain this very well, but I don't know why I struggle with explaining this concept. But if you were to explain how to get from your front door to your back door of your house, you would visualize it in your mind. And if I were to ask you right now and say, can you explain it to me? And you were to give me a step-by-step direction, there's a ratio that matches the actual amount of time it will take you to move from your front door to your back door. So as you're recalling the information, it's actually correlated with the actual amount of time. So if it takes you, let's say you live in a palace, so it takes you, or a mini palace, because it would take you a really long time, but a little palace, so maybe it takes you 10 minutes to get from the front door to the back door. I do not live in a memory palace. I think that's my front door. It probably will take me 20 seconds to get from my front door to my back door. So it would be hard to test that. But if I live in a place where it takes me 10 minutes to get from the front door to the back door in real time, then in my brain, I tell you how to do it, which is much faster in a sense. You come through the front door, you go through the dining room. There's actually, as you visualize it, and if you were to describe it in detail, that research has shown that it correlates exactly like the ratio. So in your mind, maybe 10 minutes equals 1 minute to get through the space. So when you're using this method, you're actually hacking into something you do every single day. But for whatever reason, a lot of people don't use this method because we're not taught this method. I don't know if in your school they taught you this, but they didn't teach us in our school. We might naturally do it a little bit. So there's other research to show that if you will test better in a place in the room that you've learned in. And this is actually done with some pretty interesting research where there were scuba divers and they went underwater and they learned information, and then they were tested outside of water and then tested inside of water in the same conditions, and they did better in the same conditions. Yes.
Hey,
Yes,
Mommy, I'm
Heather.
Grace. I was gonna, hopefully you can hear me. I'm unmuted. That's a good thing this morning.
Yes.
Is that because of like maybe the stimuli that surrounds you in that space? Because I find the same thing also with like, um, if I learn something in one environment, yeah, and then I'm taken out of that environment, like I have nothing to kind of spark what I learned. But if I'm in that same environment, I have the same things like that I'm seeing around me. For some reason, I get sparked, and then I just remember. So I
So I
wonder if
think,
that has anything to do with it. But it's a really interesting idea that our environment has something to do with what we remember.
yeah, so when we go back to these types of memory that I had gone over, and I mentioned how it doesn't work independent of each other, it works together. It's all interconnected and analogous and fluid. So I would imagine as we're learning that we have sort of the story, the things that we do to create those story memories or the episodic memory to help us with our semantic memory. And absolutely our environment contributes to that, and that's kind of the point that we sort of naturally do that where we're in the room. And that's why, in at least I'm sure this is a universal strategy, but in high schools across the United States, people don't take their standardized or their final exams in the room that they learned in. They put them in a gym or a cafeteria so that they aren't in the same conditions to see if they've actually learned, retain the information, and they don't need those visual cues. And then it also
Ah,
standardizes it, because you can't have 200 kids from, Mrs. Jones's social studies class in that room. So it wouldn't be fair if 20 students were in there and the rest had to take the test in a different area.
yeah,
So
interesting.
that's one of the reasons they do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you kind of naturally do it, but I invite people to, learn. This is a method that I think a lot of people would gravitate to if they were to look at a memory strategy, and it's for a lot of information you would have to kind of utilize it for. You may, if you're getting groceries, we kind of naturally would do it. If we go to the same grocery store, we know where the items that we typically would get, and then we can utilize that. But I think you have to increase your awareness of it. Otherwise, let's say you don't pass by that aisle, it doesn't cue you. So you'd have to kind of have it in your head where those items are. But so it's each method too that's listed out in this course also is a method you can use independently or together. That's something I mentioned the other day. You can mix and match, and it depends on what you're learning. So we're going to see how you guys did with these numbers. I didn't cue you to take a picture of it. You probably already have it. I don't know if anybody wants to try to recall their string of numbers. I have to look at it while you're talking. Does anyone, and no shame here, if you don't try it, you're not gonna get anywhere. I know Heather said she was going to try. I don't know if that was the one that you were going to try. Did anyone else want to attempt to say a string of numbers? They're lettered A through H, I think, or let me see if I remember that. A through I, or A through J.
I would
Natalia?
like to try it, but I didn't do it before, so I don't know.
Do you want to? You said you want to try it?
I would like to try it, yes.
Okay. Which one did you do?
I didn't do one of the list, but I have a number of my own.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to be able to tell you if you got it right or wrong, but I'll let you tell me how it goes. Go ahead.
So I just encoded it after I wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
Should I tell you the words?
Sure. You share your experience. I usually do this class very interactive, and we thought the first time I couldn't see how many participants there were, and we wasn't super interactive in that one, so it was kind of hard to make it more about you guys than about the topic or me. So go ahead.
Okay, so my words were MP, jet, nem, roll, pick, and the last one was MNT. Actually,
Okay.
it's not a word, but I just had to write it down. So if we take the first one, MP, it was 3 and P was 9. After that, jet was 6, 1. Nem was 1, 2, 3. 455 because it was a roll and the L is 5.
Good.
After that, I had pick, and F comes from 8, and K comes from 7. So the last
No.
one was MNT, so 3, 2, and 1.
That was really good. Like you have the chart down really well. Like I mean, I would have to take a while. It'd probably take me about 3 or 4 minutes to just spurt out the chart. So that was
It's like the first time I tried to remember the words on my own.
So how did it go for you? Did you feel like it was stupid? Did you feel like it was
It would help
challenging?
me, for example, remember the values of the blood test, you know? And I
Yeah.
think I will do this for these ones because sometimes I always forget something. So it will help me, definitely.
Oh, that's great to hear. Somebody had asked me, some people were asking how it can be useful, and that's great because I'm in a teaching, obviously in a teaching field, so I have access to all these resources, and I don't really have to remember the numbers as much except for my ID number to get into my computer. So I'm glad to hear like sort of these other industries where you would need to remember longer strings of numbers. And the other thing that when I was talking about the name strategy and remembering names, often people will contribute that they put like an association with that person. So, and I went back and I watched the video and I went like this when I said your name. I went like Natalia, because when I did a physical movement, but it had cut away right when I did that. So when you put another association with it, it may deepen and strengthen the memory. So often when we remember people's names, I'll always have someone in the class that says, oh, I try to remember something about them that will help me to remember that name. So if you put the two strategies together, that's helpful. So when you're talking about remembering the string of numbers and whatever it is that you do to remember those last 3 numbers or whatever it is, if it's just a series of letters that are easier to remember, that's fine. So I'm glad you talked about your process. I see Nicoletta is in here, and then I don't recall who else may have been in the class on Tuesday, and then I didn't see because that was the feature. So was anyone else, or maybe watch the video and you're like, oh yeah, let me try this and go to the class. Does anyone else want to test their skills? No one else is. All right, Heather does. Okay, thank you, Heather.
My pleasure. What motivated me to try to see if I could memorize a long string of numbers where oh, let me make sure you can hear me. You can hear me, right?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, super. What motivated me was oftentimes I don't remember somebody's phone number, and I used to be able to probably at least have 7 or 8 phone numbers memorized, and we just don't need it anymore. I don't even remember well, my own phone number, only because I've had it for like so long, but some significant numbers where if I lost my phone and I needed to call somebody, I would have no clue. I would kind of struggle to figure out what to do next. So that motivated me to at least know a string of phone numbers. So, okay, so what I did is I took a little bit of a different approach, but I found some sort of significant meaning or some sort of picture or some sort of association that I could put with the numbers to have them in my head. So I tried just a different strategy. So I think it's the first string, so you can check my work.
I'm looking at them.
The list in front of you.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. 2, 4, 8, 3, 1, 1, 0, 5, 3, 3, 3, 4, 2, 1, 6, 6, 3, 8, 0, 7.
I just got chills, Heather. Look at that.
I did it!
You did it. You got every single one right.
And I'm looking straight at the camera so everybody can see that I'm looking straight at the camera.
And you weren't looking down. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. That was really impressive. Especially since I think you said you didn't.
And it's 5 in the morning my time, everyone.
Yeah.
And
you did
Heather.
Super impressive. But what I did is I chunked them, and then I did associations for each chunk to something that I could recall, like the 6 after the 2, 1, 6, I could say, okay, so that the next set of 3 starts with 6, or the 0, 5, 3 is similar to a number sequence in my phone number or social security number or whatever. So 07 was like an important part of a date of some sort, like July. So that's the way that I did it. I tried that strategy, and now you'll have to test me at the end of your conference to see if I still remember that.
Remember that. How was that for you? I mean, and that's fine. It's like whatever works for people, but how was that for you in studying and doing it?
The process?
Yeah, the process. Yep.
Yeah, extremely helpful. One that I probably should have utilized a little bit more when I was in college, because that would have helped me in a lot of my, where, like, for example, art history, where I had to memorize 7 different things about one painting, and there were 54 paintings you had to memorize. And then they only asked you about 2. It was like... But I think that strategy would have helped to find some association. So the files that I already have in my computer mind, if you will, to find a connection, just to help me recall that, faster. Sometimes it's a slow process. Sometimes I recall it like the next day or the next year, or when you remind me, 5 years later, then all of a sudden it comes to my memory. So it was filed in there. I just needed to find it. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing the wisdom of the tactics. I'm going to be using it in the future as well. And Natalia, that was very impressive what you did too. I didn't have the courage to kind of encode the way that she did yet with the chart, but I'm going to try that one too.
It also takes time. It takes a good part of time if you're going to do anything. And just for those of you that haven't had to memorize phone numbers, by memorizing that stuff, it is possible. I mean, I know my home phone number, which is still my mother's number. She still is around, and she still lives in the same house that I grew up in. And so she's never gotten rid of her landline. I'm sure she gets a million phone calls from telemarketers only on her landline, or when we're frustrated, we can't get hold of her.
Too.
Yeah. So now when we call her on her landline, we get nothing, because I mean, it used to be a way if she didn't answer her cell phone, because she didn't use her cell phone very much. I don't know my mom's cell phone number, but I know my home number. And so I don't have to practice that or anything, because I was probably drilled into my head when I was 5 years old. And again, maybe you're like, well, I don't really need to remember phone numbers, but just by remembering phone numbers, you are exercising your mind. You are doing things that are going to deepen your thinking and deepen your learning. And the only way that you do that is by doing that. So I don't know if anybody in here, how old people are or how young people are, but as we get older, that's one of the concerns of a lot of people, is that their mind is starting to deteriorate. And I did talk on day 2 about how if you don't have the stimulus coming in, it doesn't, you your brain isn't working the same way. And let's say I wasn't 93, 85, 62, I was just me, I'm actually 50. If I stayed in my house and didn't see people and didn't talk to anybody, I'm talking about modern day, no, but if I was like completely isolated, it doesn't matter my age. And I don't mean just isolated from people, but isolated from stimulus. If I was just in a room, like imprisoned in a room without barely any stimulus, my brain's going to start to deteriorate. It's going to happen to me if I'm 50. It's going to happen to me if I'm 40, if I'm 12, if I'm 25, or if I'm 5. It doesn't matter my age. It matters what's going on in my life. So as I said in the previous class too, is that our brain wants things to be easy. So it's always going to gravitate to what's easy. What can I make this efficient? Can I just fill in the rest of the information so I don't have to work for it? And so so somewhere in your other part of your brain, it all sounds weird to even say, is you have to put that effort into challenging yourself. Now, here's something that I learned when I was in Romania. I have learned it with being an adult learner as I'm getting older. I've learned it from other people, is that it feels uncomfortable to fail, to make mistakes, to put yourself out there and to have a risk. And so especially if you're an adult, or if you're an adult listening to this later, if you're an adult in the room, is that as we get older, we're naturally going towards those things that are easier for us and that we're good at. We're becoming accomplished and confident, and that feels good. Like 15, 16, 20 something year olds typically are risk takers. So they'll just try stuff and like, oh, I don't like that, because usually we're not good at it, but we at least tried it. As we get older, we're like, nah, I'm not going to like that. Or I don't do this anymore because I'm not good at it. I'm going to go towards those things that I'm good. And then we become a little bit complacent in our lives. And then when we go to do something new, usually something pokes us to do it and says, all right, your heart's not so healthy, so you need to go and exercise, or you're going to lose your job, so you need to go back to school. And so people feel this uncomfortableness. I'll wait for whatever that is to pass. I don't know how loud that is. And then in that uncomfortableness, we lose our confidence. We get like, oh, and so if you lose your confidence, then you don't even try, and then you just kind of sit in your bubble in your room, becoming more isolated, less stimulated, and that's going to affect your mind. It's going to affect the way your mind operates. And it doesn't matter your age. If you're 5, if you're 10, if you're 20, if you're 30, 50, whatever. If you continuously stay engaged, not care about the uncomfortable and awkward, unless it's hurting somebody or hurting yourself. Otherwise, if you look stupid, whatever, it doesn't matter per se. It's not as big of a deal. What you're doing is you are being okay and being uncomfortable and trying. And there's a quote that I learned from my adult learning program somewhere along the way. I don't remember who's the author of the quote, but it's not my quote. But it was something to, and you can look it up though, because it's look upable on Google. The illiteracy of the 20th century, so not being able to read or write, of the 21st century. Wait, let me say the quote first. Let me wake up first. I'm gonna totally butcher this. I should just look it up. But illiteracy for the 21st century won't be if you can't read or write. It will be if you can't learn, unlearn, and relearn. So being able to be adaptable, being able to learn and change what you once knew, because that's no longer true. And we're living in that age right now. And a lot of people are very frustrated with COVID-19 because they're like, well, how do we get it? How do we stop it? They say do this, but that now they're saying do that. And what they're saying is they don't know. That's what they're saying. And they're saying this is their best guess. And by the way, that's what science is in general. It's the best guess of what the evidence they have. And science is meant to disprove itself. So someone's going to come along and try to disprove whatever's been proven time and time again. And that's what makes science so credible, because if it stands up to the opposing views or the people trying to disprove it, then it's much more solid. Each time it's challenged, each time there's a glitch, each time there's something that happens. But I think naturally most humans like to sit in an area of comfort, and then the more you sit in the area of comfort, the more discomfort you'll have as you're trying to break out of that comfort zone. And so the thing, when I was in Romania, I often had students who would tell me they wouldn't talk in class, and this was totally new to me. They wouldn't talk in class because they didn't want to speak English in front of each other, and that they shared, they're like, I'm just not comfortable doing it in a crowd or in front of people, which I do understand, but there was that little piece of me that said, it doesn't matter. Like, nobody speaks English perfectly. You go back and listen to me talk for the past 20 minutes. Rewind this. I'm not speaking nobody speaks perfectly. It's an impression that some people think people have. It's about communication and what's the point behind it. So there are so many examples of being able to do this besides the memory strategy here and practicing and failing. Part of learning is failing, and part of learning is making mistakes. It's necessary. It's 100% necessary. And I like to share this story of when to show how powerful mistakes are and what a gift they are a lot of times, is that when I was taking a biological basis to memory class or something like that, or a neural processes class, it was a very high level, in-depth, it was actually like a pre-med class. I never had interest in my medical degree. It was a class about the brain. So I'm like, I'm in. And it was very dense in very neuroscience words. It was definitely a challenge. And I had commuted an hour and a half to go to school every day, not every day, but a couple days a week. So I would always be destined to miss a few classes because I was also an adult student. I had a family and we had things going on, so I would often miss classes. Well, we had an exam and there were 50 questions on the exam. And I think I got like a 92 on it because I got like 4 questions wrong. And I got 4 questions wrong. I figured out what I got wrong on the 2 questions, but on the other 2 questions, I couldn't figure out. And I always took whatever I got wrong, whether I got 20 questions wrong or 1 question wrong. I wanted to know why I got it wrong. What did I miss? And so I couldn't figure it out. So I went and saw the professor. He honestly looked at me like this, like, you got a 92 on it. Like, why do you care? Like, what's wrong with you? And I explained that to him. I said, well, I just want to learn from my mistakes, and I'm not sure, I can't figure out why these 2 questions are wrong. I can't find them in the book. I can't find them in the notes. And so he told me why. I actually used my intuition to answer these 2 questions, and my intuition was wrong. And I was fascinated by the answers. I was like, oh, I never would have guessed that answer, obviously, because I got it wrong. But I remember those 2 questions to this day, and that was 18 years ago, at least 18 years ago, and I don't remember anything else on that exam. I don't even remember the other 2 questions I got wrong. I remember those 2 questions, though. So that's how powerful mistakes can be. And of course, mistakes evolutionary wise, if you mistake a lion for a rock, that's like a life-threatening mistake if you're sitting near a lion. And it kind of always goes back to that concept of, are we in danger? Are we not in danger? And our body kind of goes to that direction. You're welcome, Sana. Does anybody have any questions so far? I thought maybe we would do an exercise with the pictures because we do have time for that, but I want to see if anyone has any questions.
I was thinking about memorizing sheet music as a musician with using this strategy. What do you think about?
Okay, so I'm gonna own this. I don't have a strength in music. I actually respect and I'm in awe of artistic things and musical things, and musical stuff. I want to let you know is it is so challenging for me to learn. I took piano for 8 years and I can maybe play a tiny part of 2 songs. So I really struggle with it, and I'm actually fascinated by that. I'm not just saying like, well, I'm not good at music, I don't have an answer. What I'm saying is I'm not very good at that. I feel like I actually have a disability in trying to understand, and it's related to language too. It's very hard for me to learn other languages, I think, because there's so much going on at the same time. So Anna, I don't know where you just went. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Although I can't see you, I'm just looking at your name. What I suggest is try it. I think with music, you have multiple processes. In my opinion, this is just coming from me, not from my research, but in my opinion, you have all these processes going on. What instrument do you play?
Guitar and piano. And this week, for example, I had a very long song. It has 80 pages, and they were similarly, and I didn't know how to memorize them. And I think it may be very useful, this strategy.
So I would try it. It's a little bit different because you're using letters. So I would suggest that, I mean, how many words can you make out of A through, what is it on the keys, A through H or A through?
Yes, 80 pages. I think
memorizing
like pieces of songs.
Yeah. So because I do know with playing music, it's a lot about the practice. And then, so you have so many things going on there. You have to know the letter, the symbol associated with the letter, where it's positioned on the page, and how that associates with the position of your fingers, if it sounds right, if all of that. And then you have to have emotion and natural whatever in there. Keep in mind that I don't know if you were in the other 2 classes or if you watched the videos, but we do have a body memory. So use that, obviously use that too, but you can maybe raise your awareness to at least chunk those 80 pages. So that's my very first piece of advice, is you want to chunk each section maybe into 20, like you see it as like 20 separate songs, or 24 separate songs and 20 pages or something like that. I don't know what a reasonable amount of pages are. That sounds, 20 still sounds like a lot to me. So I would chunk them and then raise your awareness of your body, your position, and obviously the sound. Music is such a powerful tool for memory in general. Like music is another thing that people can use. The rhyming aspect, the rhythm, and then when I mentioned you can use your body in helping you remember. So when you chunk, you can even maybe for whatever part, maybe you don't have an even amount of pages, wherever it makes sense, based on the tone of the song, you can actually change positions of your body within like page 1 through 5, because it's so whatever, you associate that emotion the music is portraying into your body. And I think that would even help you more. If you can use the major peg system for remembering sheet music, I would love for you to connect with me on Facebook and tell me how that went for you. Because that seems like I believe it can happen. I do think that would be a challenge, and I would be excited to hear about how your experience was.
Well, I will try. Thank you a lot.
Or I think the method of loci would help you too. So for sure. Mm-hmm. That other method, I think that would help you a lot. Pardon?
Hi.
Oh, bye, Marcia. Hi or bye? Hi, good.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Thank you so much for very perfect presentation.
Oh,
and I thank Heather for inviting my students and I to this conference. I enjoyed your presentation a lot. I have a question. I want to know that is this question that I face is a problem related to memory, or should I do something to improve that or not? Sometimes I want to keep something in a safe place. In other way, I want to hide that. After some time, I do not know where I left that thing or hide that thing. So is it a kind of problem, and what can I do for boosting my memory not happen this for me?
So you just made this class more perfect, because on Tuesday I said, have me remember to tell you the strategy to use for not losing things. Do you guys remember me telling you that? And then you just reminded me. Is your name Iran?
Yeah,
Iran.
Marzia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I couldn't tell because from your name, I was like, is that your first name or your last name? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. And of course, I'm really happy to be talking with people and having you here. It's just the best part of the whole teaching the class thing. So yes, there's an absolute strategy. It doesn't work every time. So there's a couple things that you can do. So I'll tell you the first strategy that I learned in school. This was one of the few things I learned in school that was helpful, though. I learned many things, but this one I have found to be true. And it seems almost too simple, but it really isn't. It's actually a challenge, because you're teaching yourself a few behaviors, and often it's when you're not paying attention. So my fiance is leaving for work right now. Bye, I love you. And my alarm's going on. Okay, so what you need to do, so whether Iran is consciously or often, the best example, I have a mouse for my computer. I'm just going to use this as a demonstration. This thing is easy to actually misplace because I have laptops and I move around, and I have 2 laptops. So what you do is when you say, oh, I'll find this here later, if you're not putting it where it lives, because that's the first thing, is most of your stuff that you use on a daily basis should have a home base. And so whether it's if it's your car keys, if it's your purse or your wallet, if you have a purse or you have a bag, you put it in the same pocket, your wallet, your ID, your money, whatever it is, you just have your same places. If ever that little person inside your head that likes you to lose things says, just put it there and you'll find it later, stop yourself and go, wait, nope. And then you think, and you say, where would I look for this if I cannot find it? And then you put it there. So because I don't know how many times I'd be like, put like your cell phone. I mean, how easy is it to go, oh, I'll put this here, your hands get busy. And then you're like, where did I put my cell phone? And you look everywhere, and then it's in the refrigerator, or it's in, whatever. But you have to stop yourself. Now, it doesn't work all the time because you are busy. Like if you're on the phone or you have the earbuds and you're walking into your house and you have your keys and you're talking to somebody and you're attending to your phone conversation, you're not probably going to remember where you put your stuff unless you have a home base. It works great when you're visiting somebody or you're in a hotel or traveling. If you're in an unfamiliar area or you move to a new house, then you say, okay, where would I look for this stuff if I wanted to find it? And for me, it works a lot. Like I'll be like, all right, I better get up. I better put this in that bag because that's where I would have it. So, and I teach older adults in I'll teach any age, but that's who's paying. That's who's coming to my classes are usually the much older people. And there's this guy, and he thought he was getting early Alzheimer's. Like he was really worried because his mother had it. And that was one of the questions he had asked first off in the class. And he just said, oh my gosh, this was worth the money I paid for all 3 classes. It reversed his thinking to think that he had Alzheimer's. Now I told him, I said, if you think you have it, go get checked out. Don't take anything I say into account. I'm not a doctor. But he said that was his biggest problem, was he would misplace things all the time. And I said, create a home for those things that you're worried about losing. So if you have a secret place, like you want to hide it, then there's two things you can do there, is to say, okay, have your same secret places. So maybe have 5, because I don't know who you're hiding it from and if they can figure out your secret places, but at least in one place, have it written down where your secret places are. I do that when I travel. Like actually I did that when I came to Romania. I think I brought 200 lei in cash. And I, like, whatever that is, I know it's not a tremendous amount of money, but it's a significant amount. And I didn't want it all in one spot. So I wrote down somewhere, I think in my phone, I put it in my phone, all the different places I put the money. And then at home, it's always great to mysteriously find that $20 you misplaced. So that I don't have a huge issue with.
Yeah.
Yay,
Yes.
$20. So
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
The hardest part is stopping yourself when your brain goes, I'll just put this here, and to go, wait, no, I'm going to put it where I would look for it. It's the hardest part. So
Yes.
you have to practice it. You're welcome.
Thank you.
For asking.
Thank you.
And thank you for reminding us. I don't know. That's like such
Yeah.
a great thing. I appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nicoletta, did you have a question? You went off, you unmuted. Did you have a question?
I was, can you hear me?
Oh, there's Nicole and then Nicoletta, but Nicole, go ahead, and then Nicoletta, I'll come back to you. Okay, go ahead.
I just went through the link you sent it to me, and I learned about different strategies. Like, we have different memories. For example, we have visual memory, where we can place our memory based on what we learn, like, from different stories. Like, for me, the visual memory doesn't really work. Like, if I know a spot and I know I put something there, if I don't have a story connected with that thing, I totally forget from the visual memory. Other persons, they can see something and then they remember it after 10 years as well, exactly where it was. For me, I need to practice it. So is there any, like, you said the last time about a game that you like to play online that helps you with the visual memory? Like, is any...
It seems so silly. I'll just go to it because it's got like a similar name. So when things are similarly named, and I haven't played it in a long time, to be honest, because it does get a little tiresome, but I like it. I actually have played it with my English as a second language students. So I know that you are also a teacher and your husband is. So let me see if I can go to the games. That's my fiance and my grandson right there.
Cool.
Where are my games? There we are. Well, let me just put it, I think if I just go in here. Oh, good. Somebody's asking about plantar fasciitis, criminal case. So, because some of the find thing games are a little bit tedious, this one, like the right mix of things. So it's this game, and you can play it right on Facebook, or you can get it on your phone. There's like an app. And this one, what they have is it's like different versions of the same, like they'll have different boards, so to speak, if you want to call them that, but they have different versions of the same one where they'll do different games. So initially they kind of do it where you're trying to pick out 10 objects. But there's a total of like 65 objects to the whole puzzle. So each time you go, it'll add some new objects to it. And so what I'll notice is around the board, so what happens is in your visual system, you have this, I hope this doesn't screw up my thing, but you have sort of this space. So whether you make it your whole computer or you just have, I'm noticing it's affecting my bandwidth on my computer, so I apologize for that. I am plugged into a LAN. So, and I don't know if it'll come up here. I wish it would, but, and maybe it will or not, but there were times that like my mouse would move to the image before I would realize I was doing it. Like, and I started to pay attention to that. So I realized, I'm like, this is improving. My memory is improving each time I do maybe the same puzzle or a different puzzle. So this game, I think, is a way that you can improve. It's not like it's scientifically proven, but I am, in my own experience, had that. Now it's not letting me get past the screen. Let me clear this and get out of my anecdote. I just passed by this. All right, I'm sorry, I have to spin this, I think. Or it's not doing it. But anyway, so like if the word came up at the bottom was like lightning bolt, and then I would notice that somehow I would see the word subconsciously, and then my mouse would be right by the lightning bolt if I had played that game maybe 3 or 4 times. And so then the more that you do it, the more you would improve. And that's why I said if they researched it, I was like, oh, I wonder if they could take the data and say, all right, if I played that same game on Monday and now I'm playing it on Friday and I'm playing it like a master, how many tries did that take me? How often did that do that? And then what wound up happening in my real life, I worked in theater, and so I would help people, and often you're in a room and everybody has their bags and you have your costumes and stuff, and people would misplace things, and they'd say, oh, I lost my sword. And that was actually a true story. Somebody couldn't find their sword. They were doing a Shakespeare play, and in 2 minutes I found their sword, and everyone was looking around the room, and there were like all, and I thought, one of my friends who had been with me a lot of times, she's like, you're a good finder. And it wasn't because I necessarily knew where it was and I remembered it. I just could scan the room quickly and find it. And I think there is something to that. Some things that I'm learning more about our mind as I'm continuously teaching, because I'm continuously learning, is that our brain, so Nicole, when you were saying that you struggle with it, it's the exact thing you should be working on then. You should be trying to, you can maybe take a scene and turn the paper over or whatever it is, and then try to imagine where the items are. And I do believe the more that you work on that, the better it will get for you. And give yourself some time and space to learn it. Like if it's not one of your strength areas, it would be like, I don't have any upper body strength, so I'm not thinking that I'm going to be lifting heavy weights or heavy things right off the bat or ever, but I can at least improve it. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yeah, I saw also that you suggest there also in the link you sent it to me that people can meditate as well from 3 minutes to 10 minutes daily, where you concentrate on what you want to improve for your memory. And I think this can be also helpful.
So, and that, like, meditation, the word that comes to mind is wishful thinking, but that thinking, like, I'm reading the book called You Are the Placebo, because I'm fascinated by these things. The things that are so not tangible, like touchable for me, it's hard for me to believe. But research and science and things have shown it time and time again. And I think because we don't have an immediate response to those things often, we tend not to believe that it's effective or it's true. But meditation, you're absolutely right. So what Nicole's talking about is, so I do play Zelda, if anybody knows, on the Wii, because I play that with my grandson. And he, oh my gosh, talk about somebody with a visual system that remembers everything. He's like 3.5, and he's like, you're going the wrong way. Like, he knows stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. But I have in here a whole thing about meditation and the beneficial effects of meditation are huge, and especially to memory. And they're finding research to show that meditation reverses aging. And that sounds pretty fantastical to me, like that's ridiculous. You can't do that, but it's like scientifically proven that at the end of our chromosomes, there's these like little protectors called telomeres. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but telomeres, and every time our cells divide, they get shorter. And if they're gone, they're gone. They don't regrow if they're gone. But if they're present, people who meditate, and they're researching this to death right now, but well, to life. The telomeres are regrowing, but the more that your cells replicate as a normal process, they decrease, and then once they're gone, that cell dies, and that's why there's sort of that breakdown in systems as we age. That's basically what aging is called. And so with meditation, it actually reverses that, as long as they're present, and they can become longer and longer, and therefore that's like, they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And another sign that meditation is so powerful in a health sense is that I'm what's called a standardized patient at a teaching hospital near where I live, and that means I go in and medical students will practice asking questions and talking about difficult topics, and so there is one, and they learn like the new interventions and how to manage it, and one of them was panic attacks and anxiety disorders, and the students were taught to ask us as a patient, like, do you or have you heard of meditation? You should try that first. So they were looking at meditation as the #1 intervention, cognitive behavior therapy as the second intervention, and medicine or pills as the third intervention. And I just thought, and we're a prescription happy, pill centered society, and I was just like, wow, this is incredible. And for myself, like, I've usually swear when I'm in pain if I hurt myself. Like if I stub my toe, I'm like, and I'll swear. Well, I did that recently, and I sat down and I just meditated and I focused in on the pain, and the pain went away. It was almost like my body was in pain and it hurt. Usually I go to ignoring or getting angry. Instead, I just sat and paid attention to it, and so it stopped crying. It stopped shouting at me. I am not one of those people that I'm like, hey, believe this stuff, believe this stuff. If it works for you, it works for you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I really think it's super beneficial. So in here, this is just a brief video on meditation. I think it's one of the best explained videos on mindfulness meditation. Let me rephrase. Mindfulness meditation is the one that reverses telomeres. And there's different types of meditation. It's like trying to say, sports. There are many different types of meditation. So mindfulness meditation is the one that really is the game changer for a lot of people. So thank you, Nicole. I'm glad you took a look at that. If you guys want that, I think you can message me on Facebook. Any other questions?
We're at the top of the hour. I can't believe it. It's gone by so fast.
No more questions? Any comments?
Well, France, I think too, with your page, we can connect with you through your Facebook page. Yes. Right? If anybody has any questions going along or want to learn more, or if you had a chance to look at all the website stuff and you want to get deeper into something, absolutely. There's one in the chat. Can I also give a try to the memory exercise?
Sure. Which one?
From Diana?
Can you turn your
I want to try and kind of, you can lead us out today with the
memorize.
Go ahead.
Letter I.
Oh, you memorized oops, where'd you go? Hold on, I just clicked out everything. I clicked my desktop thing. I'm like, wait, I just clicked out everybody. Okay, let me go back to that page, please. Hold on, please wait. I'm just getting to that page so I can, letter I. All right, Diana, let's go.
100-969-225-555-600-69451.
Yes, that's awesome. That was so fast too. I'll show it just to prove it to everybody.
That's amazing.
Like everybody needs to remember what she just said and matches it. How was your experience, Diana?
I first grouped all of those digits by 3, like 100. Then I memorized 969. I picked this set of digits with the letter I because the numbers were a lot easier to memorize for me.
Because there were like 3 of them, right?
Yeah, yes. As about the last 4 digits, I linked them to the year 1492. I don't know why, but
it's when Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
yes. I don't know why I linked
I knew
it
there
to
was a
this
rhyme
year,
for that
but
one.
it was a lot easier for me to memorize the last 4 digits.
How do you feel about your memory there, doing that?
I am feeling quite okay about my memory.
Because I almost think
Good
if
job.
you remember that and you're like, that's the number that's going to be in my bank account in 2 years. And I will tell you, doing this arbitrarily, just picking a random set of numbers and trying to memorize it really isn't meaningful per se for a lot of people. So we do remember things, we do learn things easier if we have a meaning or a purpose behind it. So if you're not sure what that meaning or purpose is, make a meaning or purpose if you're trying to change your habits, like figure out what your goals are with it, or create a goal. Like, just like if you told me, France, you need to start running, I'd be like, if you say you need to start running, there's a tiger coming after you, I'd be like, all right, I'll do that. Although I'm a tiger's dinner pretty quickly. But if you said I needed to start running and there weren't any other options to get healthy, I probably would, but I do other options than running. So, but you want to create that meaning behind it. So yeah. Well, if you guys, I am on Instagram, France McCloskey. I'm on Facebook. I'm connected with Heather. If you need to get a hold of me, if I'm actually going to be working on some projects. I'm in the process of creating a podcast, so I'm hoping that comes to fruition. I have a couple ideas for different podcasts, but this is the one that I want to focus on. So if you want to stay connected, connect with me, and you can feel free to ask questions. I've had plenty of people do that just out of the blue, so I'm happy to be connected with you.
Yay. And France, we can put any information you have also in the PDF. I'm going to update that. So on the website, there's a PDF everyone can download or look at, and that has a lot of different links and movies from like all the courses the last 5 days. So we'll have that available too for people.
Okay, great. I'm just going to shoot in the chat for 1 second. Do we have like a minute or two? Somebody asked. It's just France McCloskey is my... there's 2 of me though. There's a Frances E. McCloskey that I've used for a long time ago when I wanted to keep my professional and personal life separate before I started my own business. And then I still have that because it's connected to the school that I work at. But my personal page is open now. I have way more. I don't know all the people now on my Facebook groups because of my business. So, and I know some of them are not there for business because they message me and I'm like, no. Not messaging me about memory. So any questions you guys have or any resources you want me to send you, and be prepared. If you ask me a question, I might be sending you a ton of things to read or look at. So at the very least, you'll get some good sleeping material if you're having trouble sleeping.
Thank you so much.
No, I think this is
you're welcome.
Thank you, France. We should all turn on our cameras if we can. We'll wave goodbye.
Yeah, I'm so happy that I got to be here. I love being a part of Atlantykron and
cameras on.
Seeing some of the people I've met before.
Oh,
hello.
I just seeing all the faces.
Thank you, Anna, for your question. That's a good one. Maybe you can do a recording of the song that you're learning.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much, France.
Thank you guys, Nicole, Natalia.
It's been a pleasure.
Madira. Is that how you say your name?
Yeah.
Madira. And Iran, thank you for your question. Nice job, Diana. And then nice to see you, Diana Sussman, even though I don't see you. Demetrio, Mihai, Rasha, Razmara, Alan, Ariadna. Wow. And then Sana. And then were you hosting? Oh no, Mihai. Thank you, Mihai.
And Mihai.
Thank you guys.
Well.
Thank you so much, Father. I love it.
He's in our background always,
Yay.
making sure everything flows good.
In the cosmos, he is like a satellite.
Cosmos, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful evening and a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Have fun for the rest of Atlantykron. Yay.
La vedere.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.